In our last video, we made a simple vacation request form where employees can enter their name, when the vacation starts and ends, and how many days off they want. Now, I've got a spreadsheet that holds all the information about employees at my company. Their names, email addresses, phone numbers, what offices they're based out of, as well as what departments they work in. So I want to be able to bring that spreadsheet data into my application in order to incorporate it inside this vacation request flow. In order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on this plus icon in the top left corner, and we're going to be able to create a new component. It's going to be a form again because we're importing data here, and this time we're going to select import with data. Now we get taken to an option here where we can pick it from my computer, a URL, or a cloud service like Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. Here I've got the file on my computer, so I'll select that. And we get taken into our smart import interface. There's a lot of stuff going on here, so we'll take it step by step and dig through how we can clean up all the information in the spreadsheet and make sure that the data going into the application is in tip-top shape before getting added in. So the first thing we have here is 3 tabs at the top. This shows 3 different sheets within the single Excel file. And so there's employees, offices, and departments. If I want to rename any of these, I could easily just go through and rename them. A couple different options here, like including the table or not. In this case, we're just going to leave all that as default. Now, here we have the data itself being displayed, as well as some smart suggestions here on the right-hand side. And so we're going to go through some of these smart suggestions and start cleaning up this data a little bit. So the first thing we see is that there are some employees that have duplicate rows. So if I click over here, I can see that Kelly Kapoor is listed twice for some reason. I only need one of hers, so I will go ahead and remove the duplicate, and now there's no more of those. Second thing we've got is this name column. You can see here all the names are in a single column, first name space last name, and I want to split that up into first name and last name being separated, so maybe in emails I want to call them by their first name instead of addressing them by their full name. So I can select standardized name columns, it'll give me a little prompt, I'll click yes, and you can see that it's split it up based on first name and last name. It also adds in that prefix and suffix, but in this case we don't really care about those, so we can just uncheck them and they won't be utilized. We can come back into smart suggestions and keep digging around here. We can look at employee ID has some missing values. And so if I look here, I can see Phyllis and Mark don't have employee numbers. If I want to fill it with the value, I can. Let's just put NA for now because we'll come back to it later. And what more refinements can we do? Email seems to have some multiple data types. So if I look over here, Mark Chisholm doesn't even have a proper email. He also doesn't have an employee ID, and I'm not really sure if he even works here. So let's just go ahead and right click on his row and remove him altogether to prevent him from coming in. Now, phone numbers are also kind of a mess over here. If I look, I've got some with parentheses, some in different formats all over the place. I can go ahead and click on the standardize. It'll give me a couple options here, and I'll click apply, and it'll clean them all up and make them proper. Now, a couple more transformations I can do is there's some inconsistencies in roles. And here it's really just kind of a mismatch of capitalization and stuff like that. So I'll select the capitalized versions of accountant and receptionist. And sales and salesman, both the same thing. So here I'll just change this to sales as well and replace. So those all get cleaned up. Images, there's some images in the spreadsheet, but it looks like it's just kind of a URL and we're not going to mess with those. So I'll just uncheck that and not even use it. So this entire sheet has pretty much been cleaned up. There's a couple more smart suggestions just on names, but the names are not really that valuable. Sometimes it's a little too sensitive where it thinks Martin and Martinez are the same thing because it's close enough. In this case, we know that they're 2 different people, so we're ignoring it. Now we can go over to the Offices tab. And here there's going to be a whole new set of smart suggestions based on this table's data. First thing we've got is the address field. Again, similar to the name field, it's all in one column here, and we want to split it up. So I can go ahead and select that. And here it'll split it up into street name, city, state, postal code, and country. We know they're all in the US, so I'll unselect country and ignore that. I've got address, postal code, missing a value right here. I don't know what it is, so I'll just leave it blank for now. Phone number seems to be a hot mess here as well. A bunch of different formats. Let's just standardize them all and go ahead and clean those up and click apply. And those get cleaned up. Fax number, I don't think we even care for fax number, so let's just get rid of that altogether. And the websites look fine as it is. Departments, no smart suggestions here, so everything looks pretty fine. And now if I come over here, another thing I'll show you real quick is each one of these different columns in the spreadsheet automatically get mapped to the right field type in Creator. So we didn't go through too much on field types in the form building video, but basically you have fields like a single line field, which can hold any type of data, some special fields like name, we saw date, we saw email, phone number. They just get formatted a little bit specially. So here you can see name, it shows a person. Here's a single line field, an email field, a little icon to identify each one. If I ever wanted to customize it, I could click on the down arrow, select customize field, and pick from any of Creator's field types and assign it. In this case, I'll just leave them as is because it's pretty smart. It picked up all of them as it is. Maybe a role actually, instead of a single line field, we'll make it a drop down. So it's someone like this, someone can select it from a drop down. And I think that is pretty much it on the data side. Now there's another tab up here called design. And design is going to be how the data is kind of modeled. So in every sheet of this Excel file, there's information that's related from one sheet to another. So for example, you can see here in this main employees table here, I've got department and branch, and they both match information from the branch sheet and the department sheet. So those get automatically mapped over, and we'll see how that kind of works in person in the live mode and see why that's actually beneficial to have that kind of a linking. We also have this vacation request form that we created, and if I wanted to connect something, I could, like name, for example, but in this case, I'll leave it as it is, and we'll manually create that relationship in the form builder. So now that everything is set, I'll go ahead and click on create. It'll take a few seconds. It creates the forms, and three things are going to get created here: an employee form, an offices form, and a department form. And so everything imported successfully. I can go ahead and click on access this application, and we're taken back into the live mode, or sorry, the builder actually. Here I can click on access this application, and now we're in the live mode. So we've got our vacation request form we created manually, as well as three new sections popping up here: departments, offices, and employees. If I look at the employees form, it's automatically created here with name, employee ID, all this information. And if I look at the report associated with it, it'll show me all the information for everybody that got imported. Same thing with offices. I can look at all of the offices, see their information. If I look at departments, I can look at all of the departments. Now, what we really want here is, let's say we wanted to add a new employee here. What those lookup and those connections I was talking about earlier does is it makes department and branch a dropdown where these are coming from these other forms. So in this case here, let's go ahead and add a new employee. So we'll call this person Alvin the Chipmunk, and we'll give him an employee ID, Alvin. Phone number is not necessary. Let's say he's a regional manager as well, probably in sales. What branch is he at? Maybe he's not in any of these branches. Maybe he's in a new one. So I can go ahead and click on add new, and it pops up in the office form, which lets me create a whole new office all in the same place. And it creates a relationship between the existing offices that are already in the application and this new one that I want to add here. So let's call this my Zilker Paper Austin. I don't need to give it an address or anything. I'll just leave it all blank. And now it's going to get created there. Vacation days taken, 0 so far. And as a manager, let's say I get 30 days of vacation per year. Now, if I come over to offices and look at all offices, I'll see all the ones that got imported, as well as this Austin one that I just created on the fly over there. So that's kind of how those relationships work between employees, offices, and departments. In the future videos, we'll go through and build out the relationship between employees and the vacation request form, and replace this option for manually entering your name into a lookup that lets you select from an existing list of employees. In the future videos, we'll go through and build out the relationships between the employees and the vacation request form. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and we'll see you in the next one.